Good evening to our listeners for today. May this be a reminder to you that you are never alone and you will never be alone. Feeling alone is something that comes when we actually feel anxious, when we feel frustrated, when we feel like we have all the burdens in this world. And it saddens me when there are people who actually feel that way. Those people who feel like they are alone, those people who feel like they have all those problems in life, and this scenario is normal, and this is something that we should be aware of. I have a story way back years ago when I also had that feeling of loneliness, that feeling of being alone. There was this time when I really had worst days of my life, and it turned out to be something uneasy to forget, something that actually makes me feel like no one is there to listen, no one is there to guide me, no one is there to look after me. And when that day came, when I felt like I am all alone with my life, it was that moment when I felt the heaviest in my heart. I felt like I don't have any hope in my life, and I don't have that willingness to continue my life anymore. And those days are the worst days of my life. But those days are also those days of earning, those days of growth, those days of coming together, those days that I have been able to learn a lot of things, those days when I have able to find myself more and understand myself more. Feeling alone is just a feeling, and that is something that I realize, and that is something that I found out. It is just a feeling. It is part of how you think. It is part of how you foresee things. It is something that is chained on how we see the people around us, on how we see things around us. And during those days of loneliness and during those realizations, I was able to give credit to myself for asking and for praying and for having faith to the Lord during those days when I feel like I am alone, when I have those worst days of my life. It was when I knew that am at the closest moments with the Lord. I am very, very close to Him. And sometimes I feel guilty when I just recognize that closeness. I just recognize that minimal distance with Him when I have the worst days of my life. And we are humans, and sometimes because of a lot of things, because of a lot of distractions that we have in our life, we forget to see that there is someone who is willing to make us feel, who is willing to make us feel that we are not alone, and that He will always there, literally, in good days or in bad days. He will surely be there. And that is something that will always remind me to talk to Him, to ask Him, to tell Him everything that is inside my heart. When I know that my days are feeling like I'm alone or already, I always make sure that the first one that I'll be talking to with anything that I feel, with anything that I say, is Him. And it became a grateful blessing. It became a blessing to me to have those days that I feel like I'm alone. And those days are actually days when we find ourselves again, and when we find those lost pieces, those times when we actually have a lot of questions, a lot of what is. And those days when we feel like we are alone, those days are actually days of growth, days of learning, days of a deep realization. So when we feel like our days are already at the worst, just breathe in, just find yourself again, just do the things that you love, have a hopeful heart, because when you have hope in yourself, when you have hope with the life that you want to have at the present or in the future, you will never be misguided. You will always be very positive about your life. You will always be willing to take risk. You will always be willing to fight for the life that you deserve and for the life that you want for yourself. And we should learn to convert the lonely days or the worst days into good ones. But never pressure yourself. That, like, for example, for today you feel like you are alone, and that later on you'll feel better, or tomorrow or few days to come you'll feel better. Being able to realize a lot of things during our worst days takes time, and you should respect that process. You should undergo that process, and you should recognize that the process that you are undertaking and the process that you will go through will help you. And towards the process, while you are on the process itself, you should recognize the learnings, and you should recognize realizations in your life. And from there you will find the light in the darkness, and you will feel in your heart, you will have that spark in your heart to be able to give yourself a break and give yourself a chance for growth again. You just have to respect that process. You just have to deal with it. You just have to be reminded that it is part of life, but it is not. But those worst days, or those days when you feel like you're alone, are not only the days of your life. When you surpass those lonely days, those alone days in your life, there will be a greater tomorrow for you. Just trust the process. Just trust yourself. Just trust God, and you will find the light in the darkness. And that one day you'll be thankful with those worst days in your life, that they are not just worst days, they are also days of learning and days of reflection. If you know how to convert those worst days into good ones. Whatever you are feeling right now, I know that it is part of life. I know that it is part of something greater. You should never give up on your life. You should never give up on yourself. Because always remember, and you should put it in your heart, that life is beautiful.